Imagine holding a winning lottery ticket worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Now imagine looking at the guy who handed it to you, laughing in his face, and throwing that ticket straight into the trash. Sounds completely insane, right? But back in 2000, that is exactly what happened. It goes down as arguably the most expensive, catastrophic mistake in business history. A struggling, literal nobody of a startup called Netflix was practically begging the corporate giant Blockbuster to buy them out. The asking price? A measly $50 million. Blockbuster's CEO didn't just say no, he practically laughed them out of the room. Today, Netflix is a global powerhouse worth hundreds of billions, while Blockbuster is completely extinct. But what if I told you that turning down that deal wasn't even their biggest screw-up? Blockbuster's fatal mistake didn't happen in that boardroom. It goes way deeper than that, and in this video, we're breaking down the real reason the empire collapsed. Stick around until the very end, because this lesson applies to all of us today. But trust me, the most critical mistake will be revealed closer to the finale. To understand the sheer scale of this tragedy, we have to flash back to the golden era of the 90s. You have to realize that back then, Blockbuster didn't just dominate the video rental market. They were the market. It was an absolute monopoly in home entertainment. Think about how we used to watch movies 30 years ago. No high-speed internet, no streaming platforms, no smartphones. It's Friday night, and you want to watch a movie. What do? You hop in your car and drive down to your local Blockbuster. Those bright blue and yellow glowing signs were on literally every major street corner in America. At its peak, the company had over 9,000 stores worldwide. It was a massive retail empire, serving tens of millions of loyal customers every single week. People would literally line up at the counters just to grab the last VHS copy of a new release. Blockbuster was printing money through rentals, late fees, and popcorn sales. It was a perfect, seemingly unstoppable cash machine. They felt like kings of the world, confident their reign would last forever. But while Blockbuster was busy celebrating its massive success, a tiny startup was quietly plotting its downfall. In 1997, two ambitious entrepreneurs, Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph, launched a quirky little service. They called it Netflix. Their idea was simple, but for the late 90s it sounded completely ridiculous. Renting out brand new DVDs and mailing them straight to customers' homes in bright red envelopes. The entire industry thought they were out of their minds. Wall Street analysts openly laughed at them. I mean, who would wait days for a movie to arrive in the mail when you could just walk down the street to Blockbuster and get it instantly? The Netflix team was tiny, crammed into a small office, and fighting for survival every single day. They didn't have millions for marketing. Shipping costs were skyrocketing, DVDs were cracking in transit, and the company was bleeding cash. They were literally teetering on the edge of total bankruptcy. They looked like a joke compared to a multi-billion-dollar empire. No serious investor believed in them. So, how did an idea that seemed so dead on arrival end up flipping the entire entertainment world upside down? The secret was hidden deep inside their business model. And in just a few short years, this exact feature would completely destroy Blockbuster. Fast forward to the year 2000. The dot-com crash is hitting tech companies hard. Netflix is completely exhausted and running dangerously low on cash. Out of pure desperation, co-founder Reed Hastings decides to make a massive Hail Mary move. He flies out to Dallas for an official meeting with Blockbuster's powerhouse CEO, John Antioco. The vibe in that luxury boardroom said it all. On one side, you had executives in expensive suits running a global empire. On the other side, two stressed-out founders of a money-losing website. Hastings lays his cards on the table and offers a deal. Blockbuster buys Netflix for $50 million, and in return, the Netflix team builds and runs Blockbuster's online brand. The executive reaction was instant. As Hastings later recalled, the CEO could barely keep a straight face during the pitch. To them, Netflix was just a tiny, unprofitable niche that would never appeal to the mainstream public. The corporate brass was completely blind to the future, blinded by their massive daily profits. They politely but firmly told Netflix no. The founders walked away with nothing. But that arrogant rejection was just the opening act of a massive corporate disaster. Let's dig a little deeper here. What was the real underlying flaw with the retail giant? The truth is, their entire business model was toxic and fundamentally broken. A massive chunk of Blockbuster's net profit came from one specific thing: late fees. Yeah, you heard that right. If you rented a movie for the weekend but got busy and forgot to bring it back on time, Blockbuster hit you with a massive fine. Sometimes the late fee was more expensive than buying the actual movie. Customers absolutely loathed these penalties. People felt ripped off, returning to stores with a mix of guilt and pure anger. And this is exactly where Netflix struck their first fatal blow. They completely eliminated late fees. Keep the DVD as long as you want. Done watching it? Just pop it back into the prepaid envelope, drop it in the mail, and only then would you get your next movie. Pure, frictionless convenience became their ultimate secret weapon. Blockbuster was making millions by capitalizing on their customers' mistakes. Netflix was making millions by making their lives easier. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying this deep dive and want to crack the secrets behind the rise and fall of iconic companies, hit that subscribe button right now. It really helps the channel grow, and we've got the most shocking twist coming up next. So, the rules of the game had officially changed. With late fees out of the picture, Netflix went on a massive offensive. They rolled out their game-changing monthly subscription model. For one flat, affordable fee, you got unlimited movie rentals. No more driving to the store in bad weather, no more standing in long lines, and no more dealing with moody store clerks. You just opened your mailbox, and your weekend entertainment was right there. At the exact same time, the tech world was booming. Home internet was getting faster, cheaper, and more accessible by the month. Consumer habits were changing fast. Why waste time driving back and forth when you can get a premium service delivered right to your door? Consumers quickly realized which company actually cared about them, and they started leaving Blockbuster in droves. Netflix's subscriber base started growing exponentially. But even then, with a dangerous competitor closing in, Blockbuster still had one final window of opportunity to pivot and save itself. Finally, reality hit the corporate suite, and the executives realized the sheer scale of the looming disaster. The company went into absolute panic mode. They finally understood that the internet wasn't just a temporary fad, it was the new reality. Blockbuster scrambled to launch its own online DVD rental service and hastily dropped their infamous late fees. But it was too little, too late. Their massive network of thousands of physical brick-and-mortar stores, which used to be their biggest asset, instantly turned into a massive financial anchor, dragging them to the bottom. Commercial rent, electricity bills, taxes, payroll for thousands of employees. These massive fixed costs were burning through millions of dollars a day. While a lean Netflix was pouring every dollar into upgrading their tech and buying movie rights, Blockbuster was wasting millions just keeping the lights on in empty buildings. Internal fighting broke out between board members and the CEO. And right here at their weakest moment, they made their final fatal mistake. Enter 2007. High-speed broadband internet officially becomes the standard in American homes. And this is when Netflix makes a historical pivot that changed the world forever. They launched streaming. Forget about plastic DVDs, forget about envelopes, stamps, and mailboxes. Now, movies were beamed directly onto your computer screen instantly with a single click of a mouse. This was a massive shift. The need for physical media evaporated overnight. At the same time, internet speeds were improving across America. YouTube had already shown people that video could live online. Consumers were becoming impatient. They didn't want to wait for DVDs to arrive in the mail anymore. They wanted instant access. Netflix saw that shift before almost anyone else. While Blockbuster was still focused on stores and shelves, Netflix was building for a future where movies could be watched anywhere, anytime. Netflix was no longer just a convenient delivery service. They had transformed into a cutting-edge tech giant. They were the first to realize a simple truth. People didn't want plastic discs. They wanted the content on those discs, and they wanted it right now. While their competitors were desperately trying to sell boxes, Netflix was selling instant access to pure emotion. But the most important mistake is still ahead. So, what is the ultimate takeaway from this story? The truth is, Netflix didn't kill Blockbuster. In many ways, Blockbuster was still bigger, richer, and more recognizable. But size doesn't guarantee survival. History is full of companies that dominated their industries and still disappeared because they stopped adapting. Blockbuster committed corporate suicide. They lost to the future because they spent all their energy defending an outdated, dying business model instead of having the courage to build a new one. It's the classic trap of corporate complacency. When you're sitting at the top of the world for so long, you start to believe things will stay that way forever. Blockbuster's biggest mistake wasn't laughing at a $50 million buyout offer. Their real mistake was the arrogant belief that the world around them would never change. They protected their physical stores until their very last breath, until that breath became their final one. Today, out of a multi-billion-dollar global empire, only one single Blockbuster store remains on Earth, in the small town of Bend, Oregon. At its peak, Blockbuster employed more than 80,000 people and served millions of customers every week. Today, almost all of that exists only in photographs, documentaries, and memories. It operates purely as a nostalgic tourist attraction, a living museum of a bygone era. Meanwhile, Netflix is a global media empire, producing its own award-winning shows and dictating global pop culture. The company Blockbuster laughed at became the company that changed entertainment forever. And Blockbuster became a warning that success can be dangerous when it makes you believe the future will look exactly like the present. History repeats itself, and it's happening right now across dozens of industries, from AI to electric vehicles. Remember this brutal rule of business. Your most dangerous competitors never show up with a warning. In the beginning, they always look small, broke, messy, and honestly, kind of funny. But if you refuse to open your eyes, tomorrow they will be sitting in your chair. What major company today do you think is acting exactly like Blockbuster did? Who do you think is next on the chopping block? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to see your takes. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.